Hey everybody, I'm Dave Stevens with Stevens Group Training. Welcome to How to Become a More Effective Listener. I've got a lot of good stuff to share with you today, so let's go ahead and get started. How to become a more effective listener. If you ask most people if they're a good listener, they'll say, of course. But in reality, very few of us are actually good at listening effectively. During our time together, we'll work together to address what makes for a good listener and how you can form habits to help you better connect with those that you talk to. A study of over 8,000 employees from various job backgrounds found that almost all participants believed that they communicated as effectively or more effectively than their coworkers. But there's no way that everybody could be above average. In reality, the average person listens at only about 25% efficiency. 25%. While most people agree that listening is a very important skill, a majority don't feel a strong need to improve that skill. This is probably because effective listening isn't something we really talk about, which is strange because we're social creatures who thrive on communication. And listening is arguably the most important aspect of effective communication. A study of managers and employees in a high-stress hospital setting found that listening explained 40% of the variance in effective leadership. Think of someone you believe to be an effective leader in your life, be it a teacher, a politician, a boss, or even a parent. Would you consider that person to be a good listener? As a leader, working on your listening skills will help foster bonds and trust between yourself and your subordinates. Being a good listener will also help demonstrate the concern you have for their well-being, which will make them more committed to you and the work that they do with you. Effective listening tends to reduce the frequency of interpersonal conflict because it's more likely that a dispute can be resolved by coming to a win-win situation. Think about it. When you feel as though no one is listening to your side of the story, you'll be more likely to be on the defense and become more passionate about your point. On the other hand, if you feel as though your concerns are being taken into account, you'll probably be more likely to agree to a compromise and try to work toward a middle ground. At this point, I'm sure you're ready to finally get to the bottom of what effective listening is and how to get in the habit of practicing it. First, in one sentence, describe what you think effective listening is in the chat box below. Effective listening is actively absorbing information while showing the speaker that you're listening and engaged, and then providing feedback that shows them that they have been heard. In other words, effective listeners show speakers that they have been heard and understood. Like I mentioned before, us humans are social creatures who thrive on relationships. So one of the best things you can do for another person is to show them that their communication is working and that their message is being delivered effectively. Have you ever left a conversation feeling more confused and lost than you did going into it? That's poor communication. Now think of a time that you've sat down with someone and discussed their thoughts in a way that almost left you with a sense of relief when you walked away. Your body language is an extremely important component of listening. Some research suggests that it's more important than the words you speak. When you're having a conversation with someone, face the speaker and maintain eye contact. This shows them that they have your undivided attention. Another faux pas is crossing yourself off from the person with your arms or legs. This is essentially setting up a barrier or a fence or a wall. And it makes them feel like you're not interested. Psychology shows that crossed arms can be interpreted as a sign of defensiveness or awkwardness, or even boredom. If you're looking to create an environment of openness, keep your arms and legs uncrossed and sit in plain view of your talking partners with no barriers, like a desk, in the way. Talking to someone while they're looking around the room, or checking their watch, or studying a computer screen, gazing out the window, or looking at their phone makes you feel as though you're not being heard. While you might be thinking that your multitasking skills are good enough to hold a conversation while simultaneously doing something else, there's no doubt that making a habit of this will create some tension between you and the people you talk with. I should clarify that although eye contact is important, there is such a thing as too much eye contact. You don't have to stare at the other person. You can look away now and then, but just be attentive, nod occasionally to show the person that you're listening. You can also say, uh-huh, or I hear you. Things like that let them know that you're actively engaged, actively listening to what they're saying. Effective listening means listening without judging the other person or mentally criticizing the things they tell you. Remember, you're not listening to respond. You're listening to learn something new. A lot of us, during a conversation, we're coming up with something that we're going to say as soon as they shut up, rather than listening to what they are saying at the moment. And if we're trying to come up with something to say, that means we're missing what they're trying to relay to us. Also, don't jump to conclusions about the things they say. Instead, ask questions. And don't be a sentence grabber. Sometimes when you're taking in information, you have your own train of thought running through your mind, which makes it easy to try to jump in and finish other people's thoughts or sentences. Please don't be this person. When someone is talking to you, try and paint a mental picture of what they're saying. See, because that's how our brain works. We typically remember pictures, not necessarily words or sentences. Like, as an example, if I would say to you, a yellow banana, you don't see the words yellow banana, you would see a picture in your mind of a yellow banana. So when somebody is telling you, when you're conversing with somebody and you're listening, try to convert their words into pictures, because you will understand it better, but you will also remember it more deeply. You will lock in those memories more effectively. This can also help you focus while connecting more to the words that they speak. When you're listening for long stretches of a story, concentrate on and remember key words and phrases, and your brain will do the rest of the work. And if your thoughts start to wander, refocus with a question or restate what they said. It's also okay to stop them and say something like, wait, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify that I'm following. You said this, correct? Or you can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part? Usually the person won't mind your interruption, as long as your recap isn't entirely off base or off topic. When you're listening to someone about a problem, refrain from suggesting solutions. This is difficult for many people to do. And I know it's difficult a lot of times. It's difficult for me, but also men, because men have a habit of being fixers. We feel like we have to fix things. So when we hear about a problem, we start figuring out ways to try and fix it. And I've worked on that, and I've focused on it, and I've gotten a lot better at it. But you don't want to be somebody that's throwing out solutions, because the person may just be wanting to vent and not necessarily want fixes to the problem. Like I said, this is difficult for many people to do, especially us guys. We all want to help people. And when the answer seems clear to you, you want to share it. But most of the time, people just want to share their thoughts or vent. If you are bursting with a fantastic idea, ask your conversation partner, would you like to hear my thoughts? That way, they're in control of whether or not they're interested in hearing your solutions or your ideas. We all think and speak at different rates. If you're a quick thinker and are one to chime in, then it's up to you to learn how to refrain and slow down. In order to be an effective listener, you must train yourself to stop interrupting. And I know this was a big problem with me in my first marriage, in that I would come up with an answer or a solution and blurt it right out, and my wife wasn't really done talking about it yet. And so it created a lot of strife in our communication. And like I said, I've worked on that and gotten a lot better on that, but I could still get even better. See, when you cut someone off with your own thoughts, you're essentially saying, I'm more important than you are. Or, what I have to say is more interesting, accurate, or relevant. Or, what you're saying doesn't really matter. Or, I don't have time for this conversation. Or, this is a contest of who knows more, and I'm going to win. Although you may not intend to communicate any of those things, your actions could suggest otherwise. The best journalists, interviewers, and researchers learn the importance of probing early on. Probing just means asking for additional information, but it can help you understand the situation more fully. Effective probing comes from a non-judgmental place, and it follows the flow of what's been previously said. Additionally, probing really shows the person you're speaking with that you're paying attention to detail and are fully invested in what they're saying. And probing can be accomplished by simply saying, "Tell me more," or "Could you give me more detail about that?" Or "Could you expand on what you're saying?" Being an effective listener involves learning to respond in ways that won't sound off-putting to the person who's speaking. This means avoiding accusation questions like, "Why would you do that?" Or how could you have thought that?" While your intentions might be innocent, the tone of these phrases will likely come off as judgmental, which is not your goal. Don't be a topper. We're all guilty of jumping in and sharing our own stories about a topic as they're being discussed, but that's a habit we should break. Think of this from the perspective of your conversational partner. They've come to you to share their thoughts, and in response, you started talking about yourself. This gives the impression that you're not listening or don't care about the other person's experience. Although we usually mention our own experiences as a way to say, "You're not alone in this," or "I've experienced this as well," we risk sending the message that we are superior or more important. My ex-sister-in-law was probably the best topper I've ever met in my entire life. You could say to her, "Hey, I'm so proud of my son, graduated from college this week. He had a 3.5 GPA." You wouldn't even get that out of your mouth, and she would be saying, "Yeah, well, my daughter graduated with a 3.6. She always has to one-up you. And it's very irritating, to say the least, and obnoxious, to say the worst. And it bothers not only her sisters, but also her parents, along with everybody else she talks to. She's always got to be on top of everybody else. If you find yourself doing this, finish your thought quickly, then apologize. You can say something like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get us off track. And this isn't a conversation about me. Let's get back on topic." So what you've done is you've said you're sorry, and you got it back, the conversation from you back focused onto them. And I guarantee you, they will appreciate it, and it will go over very smoothly if you do something like that. I want to reiterate that you have got to be mindful about giving unsolicited advice. Most people give advice because they like to help people. But when you start advising without consent from your conversational partner, you've essentially stopped listening and you risk dominating the dialogue. Rather than assuming that someone wants your advice, be safe and remain quiet unless your opinion is sought out. If this is especially difficult for you, try these methods. Ask the other person something like, have you thought about what your next step is? This gives them a chance to say, yes, I'm going to do this, or no, do you have any ideas? At that point, they have then opened it up to your input. If they say yes, thank them for sharing the information with you and let them know that you're here for them if they need any additional guidance or help. Keep in mind that your goal as a listener is to try and develop a deeper bond. If your goal is to better connect with someone, then you should be making an effort to work with them instead of telling them what to do. Okay? And I'm going to repeat that. If your goal is to better connect with someone, then you should be making an effort to work with them instead of telling them what to do. As an active listener, your ultimate goal is to get as much information as possible in a time-efficient manner and leave the conversation on better terms. This means setting the environment for a comfortable conversation through your body language, being mindful of the way you react to phrases and ideas, especially those that you might not agree with, asking questions that encourage the speaker to share more, and refrain from giving unsolicited advice. Now I'm going to put a list of sources up on the next slide of where the information came from for this class. So you can pause the replay or the webinar in the recording in the future to get these and check them out if you so desire. I want to thank you for spending the time, taking the time out of your busy day to join me today. I absolutely love sharing this information with you about how to become a more effective listener. If you have any further questions, you can post them in the chat box below or send me an email at dave@stevensgrouptraining.com. So I want you to go out there and listen. I really like being with you guys today. If I can help you in any way, I am here to support you. If you need more help on this subject or any other personal development subjects, send me an email, dave@stevensgrouptraining.com. If I can help you personally. If you set up speakers for Lions groups, Chamber of Commerce's, or training sessions in your company, in your organization, and you feel like this might be a good topic, please hit me up, dave@stevensgrouptraining.com. All right, thank you for being with me, and enjoy the rest of your day.